Opa. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome our first live stream here on YouTube and LinkedIn. Our first live stream for Connectera. We came here to talk about sales, a very interesting topic for many people. Let me first introduce myself. I'm Ramon. I'm the CEO of Connectera. Connectera is a company specialized in sales outsourcing and sales processes. And I'm here with my business partner, Marco. We're going to talk about sales today. As I said, Marco has a lot of experience in sales. He has an extended sales career selling, especially to Latin America. He's going to introduce himself in a while. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. I would like to welcome everyone to our live. And Marco, it's very nice to have you here with us, our first guest. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, talk about your career a little bit, your experiences?
Of course, Ramon. Thank you very much. Hey, everyone. I see a lot of people joining. Very nice to have you here today. Yes, as Ramon said, I have a lot of experience selling, doing expansions for international companies that want to sell more in Latin America. I think I can add a lot of value there. So I'm very excited to be here with you guys. And if you have any questions for me, please ask me in the chat and I'll be happy to answer them. Yes, let's go. Let's do this.
Amazing, amazing. We're gonna do this like as a. I'm gonna shoot some questions about the topics, and we're gonna make this a discussion. I hope that I can be able to make this a rich discussion. I'm not that experienced in sales as you, Marco, but I hope I will be able to make this interesting for us. Um, and just as an introduction, I would like to tell how me and Marco, a story and of how me and Marco we met. Uh, I lived in Israel for 3 years of my life, and I reconnected with Marco. I met him in Brazil long ago in the childhood, but then I reconnected with him in Israel, and I was looking for a job, and he was kind enough to arrange me an interview at the company that he was working for, and he was very nice to me, and I actually got the job, and we started working together in this big ed tech startup in Israel. It's a very nice story. In the first week, we sat down with the CEO in a table for lunch, and I told him, "Listen, you have a very nice ed tech, and we have pretty big educational groups in Brazil and in Latam. I think we should explore more this region." He looked me in the eyes and said, "Listen, there's no business in your countries." That's what he said. That's what he told me. My first week at the company with the CEO lunch, and then Marco, do you want to tell everyone what happened one or 2 months later?
No, for sure. This is a very good story. Actually, it just reminded me that once I was sitting with a VP sales of a company that I worked for, and we were going through Salesforce, and there is an option on Salesforce to put the account on ice. A lot of salespeople understand what I'm talking about, but it's basically you say that no one can touch this account because there is no point in doing so. So he put it all the accounts in Latin America into ice, and we couldn't touch on them. And after you talk to the CEO, we did a list together of the potential customers in Latin America that we could target. I remember that we did this kind of not illegally, but they didn't tell us to do this, right? So we did this, and we created this list. And after 2 weeks, I think you booked some calls for me with the biggest universities in Latin America. I was very nervous because it was the first time I was doing sales in Latam. And after I think 2 months, we closed the biggest deal in the entire company. The company had 2,000 customers, and the third biggest deal was ours from Latin America, and then is where they started to see the potential. Nowadays, this company has around 90 customers just in Latam, so it's amazing to see how they progressed, and most part of their revenue is coming from Latam. nowadays. So this is a
Amazing.
case. There are many other cases of success, but I think the main point, the main insight of this story is that I think internationally, people don't know what's going on here in Latin America, but it's a huge continent. There's a lot of market, a lot of money, and there's not much investment on technology. So people are not creating technology here, so they need to buy from other countries if they want to become competitive. So these huge companies are buying a lot of technology internationally, and maybe it can be your technology, the one you are selling, the people that are watching us tonight, today,
Amazing.
tonight, wherever you are in the world.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, we always have a hard time with time zones because since Connecterra has a lot of lags in many parts of the world, and then some days it's night for some days they are night elsewhere
Yeah.
and stuff. But yeah, I think what you were telling us links up to the first question that the first topic that I wanted to bring up, which is why exactly why do you think it's important for a company, for a technology company, to sell in Latin America? What are the advantages? What's your panorama in the region?
Well, I think the main reason is because there is a lot of money, a lot of potential customers. I think international companies, from my experience living 5 years in Israel, some years in the UK and the US, they don't see this potential. They focus a lot on the US market, and with not so much investment and dedicated effort to Latin America, you can make a lot of money. You can close big deals. We have huge companies here, so why not? If you can make more money, if you can expand your business, do it. So we have in Connectera now that we do the expansions of businesses to Latin America. We have many cases of companies that had no business here, and now they are closing 70K monthly MRR deals with customers here, and they are surprised with Nubank, with Riachuelo, with Americanas, with all these big enterprise customers in Latin America. For example, this uh, educational group, they are the biggest educational group in the world, and they are located in Brazil. So there are a lot of businesses here. People are just not enjoying this potential market that they could sell. And I think it's just because they don't know the market.
Amazing.
Um, yeah.
Very interesting. I think one point that you touched that resonates a little bit with my experience is doing strategy for startups. I think, like you said, when you go and look to United States or to Israel, you see those countries as technology launchers, as as they build the greatest technologies that we have in the world. And when you look at Brazil, you see like a very big market, a huge potential market. I think in Latin America we have more than I don't know the exact numbers, but I would probably say probably close to 1 billion people.
Hmm.
uh, just in Brazil I know it's 200 million something. So it's a very huge potential market that we can explore. And when you look to Latin America, we don't have the historic, like the track record of generating high-end technology. When you go look to Israel, you see that they have the biggest number of PhDs per capita. So I think this is a big advantage, that there's no local competition. They have to import. They have to take it to bring it from outside, which is I think it's advantage, right?
Yes, yes, and another point I think is that why they don't do it is because they don't know where to start from. Mainly because it's a very different market. Less than 5% of Latin America speaks English. So how are you gonna do it? They don't speak. Even the decision people sometimes say no, but the decision makers, the CFOs, the CEOs, they do speak English. First of all, not true. Most of them don't. And second of all, first you have to talk to someone. It's very hard that you're gonna talk in the first call to the CEO of a company. First, you're gonna talk to an influencer, and he's not gonna speak English. So how do you do it as well? If you understand that why that is important with the strategy of your company, that you wanna make more money, so how do you do it? And I think that's
Interesting.
why no one want to answer this question. No one knows to answer this question, so they don't do it, and they
I,
go to Europe. That is a market that is not as good as Latin America because it's they speak English there.
no, that's an interesting point. From my experience, I know that the Latin countries, we do tend to have a bit of more bureaucracy. The way that you
Yeah,
negotiate here, and the laws here, and the taxes here, they are very different that in developed countries. And I think that that's a very this also contributes for the international businesses not to come here, because they don't understand. I guess they don't understand how to navigate our complicated tax laws and its labor laws and etc. And I think this makes it harder for
yeah.
international businesses to come here, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'll give for everyone that is listening that wants to sell in Latin America. I'll give a very good tip for you. Use WhatsApp, for example. How many times I came to the CEO of a company with signed contracts in the WhatsApp? This is something that doesn't happen in the US because people here in Latin America they are used to use the WhatsApp for business, to do business with people. So they sign contracts in WhatsApp, they send you documents, all the conversation, all the communication is through WhatsApp. So these kind of details are very important. Also, another thing, people here are very focused on relationships. So it's very important that you invite them for lunch, that you send them a wine, that you really build this rapport with the customer, right? So you can sell more. I see my friends here in the comments, in the chat, a lot of people joining, very happy to
Amazing.
have you all. But that's it, there is many different things that we have to do here than in the US or in other markets. You don't do it.
I find this specific point that you're talking about very very interesting. We're talking about like cultural differences. We're talking about the way people do businesses in other parts of the world, and this is a thing that I find it very very interesting. From my learning of living in Israel, and I have the privilege to live in the U.S. for a while as well, and in Brazil. I find this cultural differences very interesting, as I said. And one thing that I notice is like here in Brazil, we have a huge internal market. So people, when they open a startup, they're not focused internationally. They're trying to earn their bucks here locally, and if they address like I don't know 1% of the market, they're already making big bucks. So they think locally, and I think the first driver for a startup here in Brazil it's revenues. You have to confirm that you are able to generate cash, to generate cash flow, to generate revenues. And when you go to Israel, it's a whole different story. In Israel, they have a tiny country with like less people than Sao Paulo alone. And then they are, we said before, they are very skilled, and they have to build companies that they have to to go international. There's no other option. The local market is very small, so they have a huge competition. It's a global competition, so they have to differentiate themselves through technology. And it's very common to see in Israel startups that the entrepreneur are like in love for the product, and but because it's very advanced technically, but he hasn't tested the product in the market. And when you go to the market, it's a whole different story. Sometimes people are not willing to pay for what you imagined that they were. I think this is a big cultural difference on how they think in different countries, and I think this connects a lot to sales. So my next topic that I want to explore with you, Marco, would be like, can out of your experience. how is the negotiation process, how you actually do it, what would you point out that's the biggest difference on negotiating a deal in the US or Israel, in Europe, through different with Brazil or Latam? uh, can you point out a little bit, talk to us a bit about the culture and stuff?
Yeah, so amazing question, Ramon. So first of all, we have to point out that less than 5% of Latin America speaks English. So if you want to do a serious strategy, you have to have someone speaking in Spanish and Portuguese. Second of all, they people here are different from the US and Europe. They need people that understand their culture, people that are local to their market, so they understand. Now I was in a call like 10 minutes ago, in a call with a fintech that Connectera works with. They asked me questions about specific things of the fintech market in Brazil. I need to know those specific things to connect with the customer. If I don't know this, if I don't have local people speaking the language, I don't even need to start. You might close. You see some Israeli companies, some US companies, they have one customer, Natura, Americanas. They have one customer, one big customer in Brazil, and they don't do anything else. But if you want a serious expansion, my suggestion will be for sure to find local partners, serious partners, because it's very hard to find serious partners here. Serious partners that can do all the process with you, from lead generation, booking those calls with decision making, doing the sales, doing the customer support in Portuguese. This is something very important, and that's why I started actually doing Latin America, because they closed a deal with a Latin customer and they didn't have anyone to support, and the customer was asking for it, those support in Spanish. Um, so all these things are very, very important to open. It's very difficult to find serious partners. Also, another thing, the payment. People here pay a lot of taxes to buy international solutions. So if you have a partner that can provide everything for you, all these aspects, your sales cycle will be much lower, and you're gonna sell much more. That's for sure.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, I think you're touching very many interesting points that I wanna comment about. Here in Connectera, we were always studying best practices on sales processes, and I believe that in general, the common structure that companies are using out there is to have a focused guy to generate the famous SQLs, which is meetings, and then you have a closer guy to close your deals. For me, let's say I have a company. I'm outside of Brazil. I'm outside of Latam. I have a company in London, and I want to explore the Latin territory. Would you say that if I use the same structure, I can succeed? Will I be able to find good SDRs, good BDRs, and then good closers that speaks the language and know the local culture in Latin America?
Yes, you can find, and you can find one person for the price. You can find five people for the price of one. That's the cost. So one reason that I see that companies in the US and in Israel don't want to touch the Latin American market is because it's very expensive for them to create a new expansion from scratch, all the marketing, everything that they need to expand, and hire very expensive people in the US or in Israel. So what companies are doing now in Israel and in the US is they are hiring locally in Brazil, in Latin America, because then you can hire five people for the price of one in the US, for example. And this is a very, now that we are in a crisis period, cost reduction is something very important for all the companies. So if you can have a biggest effort, scale your process, paying less, that's the ideal for companies, I feel.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Very interesting subjects that we're touching here. I think in the end, what we're saying here is that the sales process can be very similar, but the key element here is to know local culture, local laws, local tax laws, local labor laws, and especially if you can use a local partner to accelerate all this growth for you, it will be a nice idea also. Um, Amazing. Can you tell us to just for us to? I think we're coming to an end of this live, but just for us to finalize this, can you tell us a story, interesting story about a deal that you closed in Latam? Uh, Maybe a funny one.
A funny story about a deal. Yes. So, for example, here people, it's very hard to create urgency into to customers in Latin America. They usually say yes to everything. So you're gonna show them your product. They will say yes, I want it. Yes, the decision maker approved. Yes, it's moving forward, but it takes months and months and months. So it's very hard to create urgency here. So what I did once is that it was the end of the quarter and I had to hit my target. So I sent to the customer a contract saying that they if they signed in this quarter, they could cancel the contract with no penalties after 1 month, with not paying anything. And it was one day before the quarter ended, actually a few hours before the quarter ended, and I sent this contract to them, and they signed right away. And you know, when Brazilians or Latin Americans they do something, they leave it. So they left the contract. They are still customers of this company till today. So this was very funny. And the guy called me 1 month after and he said, Marco, if you hadn't do this, we wouldn't sign the agreement at all with you guys. So it's very, very different how you create urgency here in Latin America than you create in other countries. So that's my story.
Amazing, amazing. I love this story. I love this story, and this story represents, I think, all that we've been speaking till now, which is we have a different culture. With is different to explore, and if you have a serious partner that knows this culture, they can open many doors for you, and you can end up with a revenue stream, a big revenue stream that you weren't thinking before. So I would, from personal experience, I would recommend all international companies, especially if you are a software, a startup, you have a differential in technology. If you want to come to Latin America, I recommend you to do so. I think it would generate for you a nice revenue stream. And if you want tips, stay tuned to our next lives. We'll bring keynote speakers. We have a very nice schedule of lives. And also, don't hesitate to connect with me or Marco in LinkedIn or any other channel. We'll be glad to help. Marco, thank you very much for being here. It was amazing to have you here. It's always nice talking to you, always nice sharing stories, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you everyone, and good selling for you.
Bye bye.